You know, it's funny because when you think about it, one can say that Conquest was inside both Mark and Eve.
Ina wata.
Well, hello there, Detective Dice here. I've been a fan of Invincible even before the show aired, because I've been following the comics by Robert Kirkman. If the name sounds familiar, it's because it's the same guy responsible for the Walking Dead comics, which led to the TV series and the Telltale games, which is a pretty big deal. So when I heard that the comics were getting an adaptation, and both the comic writer and artist involved, I was excited, especially because it could mean improving the source material, and fixing a lot of the issues that they had back at the time, which they did. I love the direction that they went with certain characters, like Debbie and Nolan. I don't think I need to talk much about Debbie. Honestly, she got the most improvement out of all of them. But Nolan quickly became my new favorite character. All the added elements to both his past and present made his gradual change feel more natural and deserving compared to the comics. As instead of an abrupt change, they showed us that he always had the seeds of love. He just needed an environment to make them flourish. But not all people agree, and that's what I'm here to discuss today. So why don't you take a seat? Let's crack this case wide open. Before I start, if you haven't watched the new season, or never heard of Invincible even though the show came out in 2021, we're gonna need to catch you up. If you already know, skip here, but if you wanna relive Mark trauma for some reason, be my guest. You still here? Great, now I don't have to hold back. Invincible is the story of one unlucky Mark Grayson, a not-so-normal teenager who's the son of the hero Omniman. An alien came to Earth from a utopian civilization sending people to help other planets. If you think he's a Superman ripoff, you'd be right, but there's more to him, trust me. Being the son of the most powerful superhero on the planet, naturally Mark is under a lot of pressure, trying to live up to his father's legacy. And while he slowly started getting used to it, nothing could have prepared him, or anyone else for that matter, for what was coming. Yeah, so turn up, Voltron was not a utopia, but an empire built by some might-makes-right extremists, who made a career out of conquering planets, giving even the Saiyans a run for their money. Mark eventually found out, leading to exactly what you would expect. Nolan beating the everlasting shit out of his son, sparing no tools, building, trains, actual people, really anything but the belt. But physical trauma is the last of his worries. Trust me, what really stuck was
emotional damage!
Finding out your father isn't who you thought he was is going to take a toll on you. But finding out he saw your mother as a pet is going to mess you up for life. After the father-son bonding time, Nolan's left, drifting aimlessly in space and almost disconnecting himself from the server, only to be given a second chance on Thraska. So by the next time Mark meets his father, he drops a bombshell on him. Not only in the way that he changed, but also in the form of a new family member. Yeah, Nolan pulled out of depression, but couldn't pull out of the bug. Look, we listen and we don't judge, and Oliver came out of it, so it's all good. Until it was not. Viltrumites came for Nolan's head, forcing Mark to lock in for a couple of seconds before taking the usual L. Nolan got arrested, but not before passing down some clues to Mark, who passed them down to Alan, who stumbled upon Nolan by mistake, so I don't know what was the point of all of this. But at last, this is when we find Nolan doing the unthinkable for a Viltrumite. Reflecting. Seeing how much damage his people caused and how their way of thinking was wrong, and realizing he actually misses Debbie. Which lead us to the new season. Okay, so now that we're all caught up, we need to discuss how the new season reveals that we didn't know much about Nolan and why did he become the way that he is. Sure, we got an idea seeing the other Viltrumites like Anessa and Conquests, but that was more of a general understanding of the species and not Nolan himself. And while the new episodes do more of the same, showing us how insane these people actually are, like, I threw that line about giving the Saiyans a run for their money for shits and giggles, but they actually do because even Saiyans were willing to give their children shelter, man. It's one thing for a society to value the strong and make a purge, but it's another thing entirely when 2 out of your 5 students wouldn't be expected to make the cut. We also got to see Nolan's backstory, specifically his parents, jumping the shit out of him.
Fight back, nigga! Fight back!
Turns out crippling your son isn't a simple abusive behavior by Nolan, but a cultural tradition. When a Viltrumite becomes of age, his parents test his abilities by running his gauntlet. If he performed well, he gets to serve the Empire, and if he didn't, well...
Fine! What's 17 more years? I can always start again. Make another kid.
Ena.
Yeah, and he looks exactly like Mark back then. I'd say Iron is a bitch, but this happens before season 1, so I guess this is just generational trauma. Speaking of generations, I think it's apparent that Nolan's anger issue stems from his mother, while his empathy comes from his father, as clearly one was trying to test him and the other was trying to test how far she can go on him. If you kept an eye on the fight, you'd notice that Nolan's dad only uses punches while his mom immediately went for the Viltrumite chop. But this tells a fact about Nolan. A lot of people thought that the seed of love was conceived in Nolan's heart during his time on Earth. But with this episode, we've seen that Nolan's heart already got that seed. When he asked the girl about the reason why the purge was a blessing, she said because it made them strong. However, despite being close, it was not the right answer. And yet, Nolan didn't kill her. He considered it and even tightened his grip, but ultimately decided not to. Which was weird to me because up till this point, he had no reason to hold back. Until I saw the end of the fight was his parents. His mother looked like she was about to kill him, but his father stepped in, showed mercy, and said he fought well. Even took time to congratulate him. Something that Nolan noted and thanked him for. Later, when the virus spread, after Nolan got out of quarantine and was assigned to get rid of corpses in space, he saw his father's body. And even though showing any kind of emotion would have killed him, he still chose to linger, hiding his true feelings but mourning nonetheless. Sadly, that seed of love would be buried under Viltrum customs and missions, starving until his time on Earth when Debbie and Mark nurtured it, allowing a small plant of love to finally grow, sparing Earth in the process. After all, it wasn't the resistance that drove Nolan away, it was a simple answer to his question.
What will you have after 500 years?
You, Dad. I still have you.
It's important to notice that this is a connection he has only with his father, as his mother clearly hate them both. But why? Well, there's two options, but one of them requires mention in the comics. So, spoilers for the show-only watchers. If you don't want the plot ruined for you, skip here. Sorry, clear? Good. In the comics, Nolan doesn't have parents. His father was Emperor Argal. So these two are an anomaly. Some people say that they are foster parents, but in this society, Viltrumites don't take care of their actual children, why would they adopt one? Plus, if you notice, Nolan's hair was slightly brownish like the woman from that scene. And the father looked exactly like older Nolan from the comics, so it's probably where the design came from. Leaving the most likely scenario here that they changed the origin of Nolan, from a son of Argal to a descendant. Not a far-fetched considering the changes that they have done to the entire plotline in the show, like Ray. But back to the mom, if not a foster parents, then what was her problem? Well, it might have been a reverse Anessa situation. Allow me to explain. In the comics, after Anessa,
Ena watana.
yeah, let's go with that. We learn from Nolan that Viltrumites don't get married. They simply walk up to the person they like and say,
I like you, and I want you. Now we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. The choice is yours.
So perhaps Nolan's father did the same to his mother. But I don't think so. I mean, look at that face. The guy seemed chill. Plus, that bitch slap looked personal, so perhaps there was no love there. I do believe she was forced into it, but by the Empire. Just think about it. After the purge, their number must have dwindled. Not like with the virus, but a significant amount. And in order to increase the population, with everything that we've seen them do, forcing two people with promising DNA on each other doesn't sound crazy. As crazy as the rest of their actions, I mean. So both of them were forced into it. Of course, her behavior could be due to the brainwashing, but I'll stick to my version. I love the drama. But back to Nolan, he's finally willing to help the Coalition gather Viltrumite weaknesses. The same things he was charged with eradicating before. And honestly, traveling with Alan is exactly what he needed mentally, as Alan is the perfect foil for him. Nolan is closed off, drowning in guilt, while Alan is open, honest, and emotionally direct. He pulls Nolan out of his comfort zone without judging him. That's important because Nolan desperately needs someone who can forgive him and allow his sense of humanity to grow. God knows not a lot of people are willing to. And that pushes Nolan to do the second unthinkable thing for a Viltrumite. Apologizing. Insane progress considering that in season 2 he couldn't even apologize to Mark. He was still prideful and even trying to pull the family card with Oliver. Hell, we've seen how monstrous Viltrumites are, that one of them apologizing is considered a miracle. These people don't even fake remorse, let alone pretend to apologize. But now with Alan validating that remorse, Nolan slowly begin to understand, making their heart-to-heart very effective because even though Nolan knows the danger of his people, he's still not willing to cause their genocide. Something Alan can relate to because his people almost got wiped out by Viltrumites. So he tells him what needs to be done and how his people had a chance to make things right, yet recognizing how hard it must be for him. Also, the hug was cute. But growth doesn't make him immune to mistakes. When he tries to apologize to Debbie, Mark asks him who's the apologies for. Something he took time to consider as we see it got dark from the time Mark left until he was at the door, almost leaving until Debbie let him in. Their scene together was amazing because he starts with genuine self-awareness, admitting that this might have been selfish, but then completely falls apart halfway through as he's still trying to fix things and unintentionally making things about him again. The little details made it even better, like Nolan's avoiding eye contact and Debbie's blood staining his suit like a permanent reminder of his victims and her hold on his heart. To be fair though, his apology was doomed from the start. I mean, his first real one happened only weeks ago to a man he abandoned for death over a century ago, and even that guy was so shocked with Viltrumite capability of remorse that he almost forgave him immediately. But what's more interesting in my opinion is what happened with Arch afterwards. Nolan tries to reconnect with him over drinks and jokes, almost teasing if he could still get parts of his old life back. But my man shot that idea immediately, and I gotta admit, this man got balls. Because he must have been aware that Nolan was listening to his heartbeat this entire time, and he was still willing to put his foot down. Seriously, put some respect on that Taylor's name. Nolan wanted reassurance that maybe he could still belong on Earth again, and given that Arch was the least affected by his crime, it makes sense why he approached him. But he made it clear that that bridge is gone. And honestly, this is recontextualizes season 1 perfectly. Because when Mark got his power, Nolan's panic wasn't just because of his mission activating, but because he genuinely didn't want it to happen. Because Earth has become his escape, his safe haven, and Mark getting his powers meant the end of that lie. But even though he has no chance to come back to Earth, he's still got a chance to be a father. After picking up Mark and Oliver, he ignored him completely, and understandably so. Nolan was never really a father to him so far, so to suddenly show up and act like one was never going to work. But Nolan approached him strategically instead of forcefully. The training idea was actually smart because it gave them a reason to spend time together while slowly building trust, and something that Oliver wouldn't have any argument against. So when Oliver throws anger at Nolan, he absorbed it instead of fighting back, allowing Oliver to vent his frustration while teaching him a lesson. Yet the emotional turning point came when Oliver asked if he thinks he was a mistake too. To which Nolan finally stopped hiding behind excuses and admits the truth. Yes, he failed him, change is difficult, and he still doesn't know how to fully become better. That honesty is what finally allowed their bond to grow. It even circled back around with the mother monsters and her eggs, making Nolan learn something from Oliver in return. Making the later scene work so well because Nolan stopped trying to justify himself and started taking responsibility instead. When Oliver asks about Andressa, Nolan doesn't excuse what he did. He explains it honestly to Oliver so he understands the situation rather than carrying the guilt himself. So by the end of the training and fishing scene, Oliver calling him dad feels earned. Redemption is a hard road. I'm not religious or anything, but I've always liked a certain story about a killer who tried to seek redemption in another city, only to die protecting someone else on the road. And before the angel took his soul to hell, God reached down telling them that he deserved to be judged based on his final actions and not his life full of mistakes. We've all done some things that we're not particularly proud of, but I feel that if you're actually willing to change, you'll find your way. Whew, that was quite the journey. Sorry the video took so long to make, my original recording was deleted by mistake and I had to re-record it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because it's the best way to support the channel right now. And leave your thoughts down below. I'm generally interested in knowing what your opinion is, even if it's criticism. And maybe check out the other videos on my channel. The first one is doing good, but the other two not so much. And it's the only way to show YouTube that they are worth a while. If you want to, of course. But I got a feeling you're gonna love my trailer. I tried to make it as fun as possible while showing you a glimpse of what's to come. Thanks again for sticking around till the end. My name was Detective Dice, and I'll hope to see you all on the next case.